Revelation chapter 9. Now the fifth messenger blew his trumpet, and I noticed a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth, and the key to the well of the deep pit, or Tartarus, the dungeon for demons, Revelation 20 verse 1, was given to him. Then he opened the well to the deep pit, and smoke ascended out of the well, like the smoke from a large furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by the smoke of the well. Then out of the smoke came locusts onto the earth, and they were granted authority like the scorpions of the earth have authority. But it was declared to them that they shouldn't injure the grass of the earth, nor any green thing, nor any tree, but only the humans who don't have Almighty's seal on their foreheads. Now it was granted to them that they shouldn't kill them, but that they should torture them for 5 months, or 150 prophetic days. And their torture was like the torture of a scorpion when it strikes a human. So during those days, those humans will seek death, but under no circumstances will they find it. And they will desire to die, but death is going to run away from them. Now the locusts looked like horses made ready for battle. On their heads was something like winners' crowns of gold. Their faces were like human faces. They had hair like the hair of women. Their teeth were like the teeth of lions. They had breastplates like breastplates of iron. The sound of their wings was like the sound of many chariot horses racing into battle. They had tails like scorpions, including their stingers, and their authority is in their tails to injure humans for 5 months, or 150 prophetic days. They had over them as a king the messenger of the deep pit, or Tartarus. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, the destroyer, and in Greek he has the name Apollyon, the destroyer. The first terrible time has passed. Notice, 2 more terrible times are still coming after these things. Now the sixth messenger blew his trumpet, and I heard one voice from the horns of the golden altar that is before Almighty, saying to the sixth messenger who had the trumpet, "You must release the 4 messengers who have been bound in the great river Euphrates." So the 4 messengers who had been made ready for an hour, and a prophetic day, and a month, that is, 30 prophetic days, and a year, that is, 360 prophetic days, total 391 plus prophetic days, were released, so that they might kill 1/3 of the humans. Now the number of the troops of horsemen was 200 million. I heard the number of them. Now this is how I noticed the horses in the vision, and those who were sitting upon them. The riders had breastplates that were fiery red, sapphire blue, and sulphurous yellow, and the heads of the horses were like the heads of lions, and out of their mouths came red fire, blue-gray smoke, and yellow sulphur. 1/3 of the humans were killed by these 3 calamities, by the fire, the smoke, and the sulphur that went out of their mouths. For the authority of the horses was in their mouths, and in their tails. For their tails were like snakes, and they had heads with which they were doing injury. But the rest of the humans, who weren't killed by these calamities, didn't change their thoughts and feelings about the works of their hands, so that they would stop worshiping demons and idols of gold, silver, bronze, stone, and wood, that can't either observe or hear or walk. Deuteronomy 4 verse 28, and musical composition 115 verses 4 through 7. And they didn't change their thoughts and feelings about their murders, about their use of magic potions, about their non-marital sexual intercourse, or about their thefts. Revelation chapter 10. Then I noticed another strong messenger descending from heaven, clothed with a cloud, with a rainbow upon his head, and his face was like the sun, and his feet were like pillars of fire. And he had in his hand a tiny scroll that was open. Then he placed his right foot on the sea, and his left one on the land. And he yelled out with a loud voice that was like the bellowing of a lion. And when he had yelled out, the 7 peals of thunder spoke with their own voices. Now when the 7 peals of thunder had spoken, I was about to write, but I heard a voice from heaven saying, "You must seal up the things that the 7 peals of thunder have spoken, and must not write about them." Then the messenger whom I noticed standing on the sea and on the land lifted up his right hand to heaven, and promised with an oath by the one who is living for the remaining ages, the present age and the last age of the ages, who created heaven and whatever is in it, and the earth and whatever is in it, and the sea and whatever is in it, and there would be no further delay, but that during the days of the sound of the 7th messenger, when he's going to blow his trumpet, then Almighty's secret, that he spread as the good message to his slaves the prophets, shall have been completed. Then the voice that I heard from heaven spoke again with me, saying, "You must go and get the tiny scroll that is open in the hand of the messenger who is standing on the sea and on the land." So I went away to the messenger, saying to him to give me the tiny scroll. Then he said to me, "You must take it and devour it, and it will make your belly bitter, but in your mouth it will be sweet like honey." So I took the tiny scroll out of the messenger's hand and devoured it, and in my mouth it was sweet like honey, but when I had eaten it, my belly was made bitter. Then they said to me, "You have to prophesy again about many peoples, nations, languages, and kings." Revelation chapter 11. Now I was given a measuring rod like a staff, and he said, "You must get up and measure Almighty's temple, the altar, and those worshiping in it. But you must leave out the court that is outside the temple, and must not measure it, because it has been given to the pagans, and they will tread upon the pure city for 42 months, or 1,260 prophetic days. But I will grant authority to my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. These are the 2 olive trees, and the 2 lampstands that stand before the Master of the earth. Now if anyone wants to injure them, fire comes out of their mouths and devours their enemies. So if anyone should want to injure them, this is how he has to be killed. These have the authority to lock up heaven, so that there will be no shower of rain during the days of their prophecy. And they have the authority over the waters to turn them into blood, and to strike the land with every calamity as often as they want. Then, when they have completed their testimony, the wild beast that is going to ascend out of the deep pit, Tartarus, the dungeon for demons, Revelation 20 verse 1, will do battle against them, conquer them, and kill them. Then their corpses will lie in the square of the great city that spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also their master was fastened to a stake. Then those from the peoples, tribes, languages, and nations, are going to observe their corpses for 3.5 days, and they are not going to let their corpses be placed into a tomb. Then those who are making a home on the earth are going to rejoice over them and have a good time, and they will send presents to one another, because these two prophets had tortured those who made a home on the earth. Then, after 3.5 days, the Spirit, or breath of life, from Almighty entered into them, and they stood up on their feet, and great fear fell over those who were gazing at them. Then they heard a loud voice from heaven saying to them, "You must ascend to here." So they ascended into heaven in a cloud, and their enemies gazed at them. Then during that hour there occurred a great earthquake, and 1/10 of the city fell, and 7,000 named humans were killed in the earthquake, and the rest became frightened and gave esteem to the Almighty of heaven. The second terrible time has passed. Notice, the third terrible time is going to come quickly. Then the seventh messenger blew his trumpet, and loud voices occurred in heaven, saying, "This world's kingdom has become the kingdom of our Master and of his Anointed One, and he will reign for the remaining ages, the present age and the last age of the ages." Then the 24 older ones, who were sitting upon their thrones before Almighty, fell down on their faces and worshipped Almighty, saying, "We are thanking you, Master Almighty, the Almighty, the one who is and who was, because you have taken your great power and have begun to reign." Now the pagans were angry, but your anger has come. The time period has come for the dead to be judged, and for you to give the wages to your slaves the prophets, to the pure ones, and to those who were continually having deep respect for your name, both the small and the great, and to make those decay or destroy them who were making the earth decay. Then Almighty's temple in heaven was opened, and the ark or chest containing Almighty's contract was seen in his temple, and there occurred flashes of lightning, noises, peals of thunder, an earthquake, and a great hailstorm. Revelation chapter 12. Next, a great sign was seen in the sky, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon underneath her feet, and on her head a winner's crown of 12 stars. And since she was pregnant, she was yelling out from her labor pains, and from her torture of giving birth to a child. Then another sign was seen in the sky. Now, notice, a great fiery red dragon, or Satan, that had 7 heads and 10 horns, with 7 crowns on his heads. And his tail dragged 1/3 of the stars of the sky, and threw them down to the earth. Then the dragon, or Satan, stood before the woman who is about to give birth to a child, so that he might devour her child when she gives birth. Then she gave birth to a son, a male child, who is going to shepherd all the nations with an iron staff. And her child was seized away to Almighty and to his throne. Then the woman ran away into the wasteland, where she had a place made ready by Almighty, so that there they might be nourishing her for 1,260 days. Then a battle occurred in heaven. Michael and his messengers battled against the dragon, or Satan, and the dragon and his messengers battled them. But they weren't strong enough, and there was no longer a place found for them in heaven. So the great dragon was thrown down, the ancient snake, who is called the adversary, and Satan, the adversary, who is continually leading the whole inhabited earth astray. He was thrown down to the earth, and his messengers were thrown down with him. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, "Just now the salvation from destruction, the power, the kingdom of our Almighty, and the authority of His Anointed One have come, because the accuser of our brothers and sisters, who was accusing them before our Almighty day and night, has been thrown down. They conquered him because of the young lamb's blood, and because of the word of their testimony, because even to the point of death they didn't love their sentient beings. For this reason, you must be having a good time, you heavens, and you who are in the tent in them. What a terrible time for the land and the sea, because the adversary has descended to you, while having great rage, since he is aware that he has only a short time period. Now when the dragon, Satan, noticed that he was thrown down to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. But the 2 wings of a large eagle were given to the woman, so that she might fly away from the face of the snake to her place in the wasteland, where she was nourished for a time period, 360 prophetic days, 2 time periods, 720 prophetic days, and a half time period, or 180 prophetic days, total 1,260 prophetic days. So the snake, Satan, sprayed water like a river out of his mouth after the woman, so that she might be carried away by its current. But the earth helped the woman, because the earth opened its mouth and swallowed the river that the dragon, Satan, sprayed out of his mouth. So the dragon was angry with the woman, and went away and stood on the sand of the sea to do battle against the rest of her seed, or descendants. That is, those who are continually keeping Almighty's directions, and continually giving their testimony about Yesus. Revelation chapter 13. Then I noticed a wild beast ascending out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on its horns, and slanderous names on its heads. Now the wild beast that I noticed was like a female leopard, fierce and swift to spring on its prey, and its feet were like those of a brown bear, powerfully able to tear its victim to pieces. And its mouth was like the mouth of a lion, roaring and ready to devour. And the dragon, Satan, gave it his power, his throne, and great authority. Then I noticed that one of its heads looked like it had been slaughtered to death, but its death blow was cured. So the whole earth marveled and followed after the wild beast, and they worshipped the dragon, Satan, because he gave the authority to the wild beast. And they worshipped the wild beast, saying, "Who is like the wild beast, and who is able to do battle against it?" Now there was given to it a mouth speaking great wonders and slanderings, and authority for 42 months, 1,260 prophetic days. Then it opened its mouth in slanderings towards Almighty, to slander His name and His tent, that is, those who are in His tent in heaven. Now it was given to it to do battle against the pure ones, and to conquer them, and authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. Then everyone who is making a home on the earth, whose name hasn't been written in the scroll of life that belongs to the young Lamb who has been slaughtered since the foundation of the world, 1 Peter 1, verses 19 through 20, will worship it. Whoever has an ear must hear. Whoever is for captivity is going to go into captivity. Whoever will kill with the sword has to be killed by the sword. Here there is something for the endurance and the faith of the pure ones. Then I noticed another wild beast, the false prophet, ascending out of the earth, and it had 2 horns like a young lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. Now it exercised all the authority of the first wild beast in its sight, and it made the earth and those who are making a home on it to worship the first wild beast, whose death blow was cured. Now it was doing great signs, so that it even made fire descend from heaven to the earth in the sight of humans. So it was leading astray those who are making a home on the earth, because of the signs that were given to it to do in the sight of the wild beast, saying to those who are making a home on the earth to make an image of the wild beast that had the blow of the sword and lived. Then there was given to it to give spirit or breath to the image of the wild beast, so that the image of the wild beast might even speak. So there was given to it to give spirit or breath to the image of the wild beast, so that the image of the wild beast might even speak, and to cause whoever doesn't worship the image of the wild beast to be killed. Then it, the false prophet, was causing everyone, the small and the great, the rich and the poor, and the free and the slaves, to be given an emblem on their right hands, or on their foreheads, so that no one was able to buy or sell, except whoever had the emblem, either the name of the wild beast, or the number of its name. Here there is something for wisdom. Whoever has a mind must calculate the number of the wild beast, for it is the number of a human, and its number is 666. 666. Revelation chapter 14. Then I noticed, and notice, there was the young Lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, who had his name and his Father's name written on their foreheads. Then I heard a sound from heaven, like the sound of many waters, and like the sound of a loud thunder. And the sound that I heard was like harp singers playing on their harps. Now they were singing a new song before the throne, and before the 4 animals, the cherubs, and the older ones. And no one could learn the song except the 144,000, who had been bought from the earth. These are the ones who weren't polluted by contact with women, for they are virgins. These are the ones who are continually following the young Lamb wherever he goes. They were bought from among the humans as first fruits for Almighty and the young Lamb. Now no lie was found in their mouths. They are flawless. Then I noticed another messenger flying in the middle of the sky, who had a good message of the last age to spread to those who are situated on the earth, to every nation, tribe, language, and people. And he said with a loud voice, "You must be having deep respect for Almighty, and give him esteem, because the hour of his judgment has come. And you must worship the one who made the heaven, the earth, the sea, and the springs of water." Then a second messenger followed, saying, "She has fallen, the great Babylon has fallen, who made all the nations drink of the wine of the rage caused by her non-marital sexual intercourse." Then a third messenger followed them, saying with a loud voice, "Whoever is worshiping the wild beast and its image, and is getting an emblem on his forehead or on his hand, will also drink of the wine of Almighty's rage, that has been blended undiluted in the cup of his anger, and will be tortured in fire and sulfur in the sight of the pure messengers, and in the sight of the young Lamb. Now the smoke of their torture is going to ascend for the remaining ages. the present age and the last age of the ages. And whoever is worshiping the wild beast and its image, and whoever is getting the emblem of its name, isn't going to have any rest day and night. Here there is something for the endurance of the pure ones, who are continually keeping Almighty's directions and their faith in Yesus. Then I heard a voice from heaven saying, "You must write this. Happy are the dead who die in union after the Master from this time on." Yes, says the Spirit, so that they might rest from their labor, for their works are going to follow after them. Then I noticed a white cloud, and sitting upon the cloud was one like the Son of Humanity, with a golden winner's crown on his head, and a sharp sickle in his hand. Now another messenger came out of the temple, yelling out with a loud voice to the one who was sitting on the cloud, "You must send in your sickle and harvest, because the hour to harvest has come, because the harvest of the earth has dried out or become ripe." So the one who was sitting on the cloud swung in his sickle over the earth, and the earth was harvested. Then another messenger came out of the temple that is in heaven, and he also had a sharp sickle. Then another messenger came out from the altar, who had authority over fire, and he shouted with a loud voice to the one who had the sharp sickle, saying, "You must send in your sharp sickle and pick the clusters of grapes from the earth's grapevine, because its grapes are ripe." So the messenger swung his sickle to the earth, and picked the grapes from the earth's grapevine, and threw them into the great wine-treading trough of the Almighty's rage. Then the grapes in the wine-treading trough were trodden outside the city, and blood came out of the wine-treading trough, up to the bridle bits of the horses, for 1,600 stadium lengths, or 184 miles. Revelation chapter 15. Then I noticed another sign in heaven, one that was great and marvelous. There were 7 messengers who had the last 7 calamities, because with them Almighty's rage is completed. Then I noticed something like a glassy sea mixed with fire, and those who had come away as conquerors from the wild beast, from its image, and from the number of its name, were standing on the glassy sea, holding harps that Almighty had given them. Now they were singing the song of Moses, Exodus 15, verses 1 through 18, Almighty's slave, the song of the young lamb, Revelation 5, verses 9 through 13, saying, "Great and marvelous are your works, Master Almighty, the Almighty. Just and true are your ways." Deuteronomy 32, verses 3 through 4. King of nations, who won't be having deep respect for you, Master, and esteem your name, because you alone are unadulterated? Jeremiah 10, verse 7. Because all the nations will arrive and worship before you, because your just actions have been made apparent. Musical composition 86, verses 9 through 10. Now after these things I noticed that the temple of the testimony tent in heaven was opened, and the 7 messengers who had the 7 calamities came out of the temple. They had on clothing of clean, shining linen, and were wrapped around their chests with wide golden belts. Then one of the 4 animals gave the 7 messengers 7 golden bowls that were loaded with the rage of Almighty, who is living for the remaining ages, the present age and the last age of the ages. Now the temple was loaded with the smoke from the esteem of Almighty, and from his power, and no one could enter into the temple until the 7 calamities of the 7 messengers were completed. Revelation chapter 16. Then I heard a loud voice from the temple, saying to the 7 messengers, "You must go and pour out the 7 bowls of Almighty's rage onto the earth." Then the first one came forward and poured out his bowl onto the earth. So a bad and malignant open sore came upon the humans, who had the emblem of the wild beast and worshipped its image. Then the second one poured out his bowl into the sea, so it turned into blood, like that of a dead person, and every living sentient being in the sea died. Then the third one poured out his bowl into the rivers and the springs of water, so they turned into blood. Then I heard the messenger of the waters saying, "You are just, you who are and who were." Revelation 11 verse 17. The unadulterated one, because you have judged in these ways, because you have poured out the blood of the pure ones and prophets, so that you have given them blood to drink. They deserve it. Then I heard the altar saying, "Yes, Master Almighty, the Almighty, your judgments are true and just." Then the fourth messenger poured out his bowl upon the sun, so it was given to it to scorch the humans with fire. So the humans were scorched with great heat, and they slandered the name of Almighty who has authority over these calamities. And they didn't change their thoughts and feelings in order to give him esteem. Then the fifth one poured out his bowl upon the throne of the wild beast, so its kingdom became dark, and the people kept gnawing their tongues from the misery, and slandered the Almighty of heaven because of their miseries and their open sores, but they didn't change their thoughts and feelings about their works. Then the sixth one poured out his bowl upon the great river Euphrates, so its water dried up, so that the road might be made ready for the kings from the east. Then I noticed 3 unclean spirits like frogs coming out of the mouth of the dragon, Satan, and out of the mouth of the wild beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. They are the spirits of demons that are continually doing signs, and they went out to the kings of the whole inhabited earth, to gather them together for the battle of the great day of Almighty, the Almighty. Notice, I'm going to come like a thief. Happy is the person who is continually wide awake and keeping his garments on, so that he might not walk naked and people observe his disrespectability. So they, the 3 unclean spirits, gathered them together at the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon, or the mountain city of Megiddo. Then the 7th messenger poured out his bowl upon the air, and a loud voice came out of the temple from the throne, saying, "It has occurred." Then there occurred flashes of lightning, noises, and peals of thunder, and there occurred a great earthquake, an earthquake of such proportion and so great that none like it had ever occurred since humanity came to be upon the earth. Now the great city became divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell. And the great Babylon was remembered in the sight of Almighty, to give her the cup of the wine of Almighty's angry rage. Now every island ran away, and the mountains were not found. And hail, as large as 50 pounds, descended from heaven upon the humans, and the humans slandered Almighty because of the calamity of the hail, because the calamity of it was tremendously great. Revelation chapter 17. Next, one of the 7 messengers who had the 7 bowls came and spoke with me, saying, "You must come on. I will show you the sentence of the great woman who has had non-marital sexual intercourse and sits on many waters, in whose non-marital sexual intercourse the kings of the earth have joined, and with the wine of whose non-marital sexual intercourse those who are making a home on the earth have become drunk." So he carried me away in my spirit to a wasteland. Then I noticed a woman who was sitting upon a purplish-red wild beast, the wild beast, that was loaded with slanderous names, and had 7 heads and 10 horns. Now the woman was clothed in colored and purplish-red cloth, glittered with gold and precious stones and pearls, and had a golden cup in her hand that was loaded with abhorrent things, and the unclean things of her non-marital sexual intercourse. Now on her forehead was written a name with a secret meaning: "The Great Babylon, the mother of women who have non-marital sexual intercourse, and of the abhorrent things of the earth." Then I noticed that the woman was drunk from the blood of the pure ones, because they were Yesu's followers, and from the blood of Yesu's witnesses, because they were witnessing. Now when I noticed her, I definitely marveled greatly. But the messenger said to me, "Why do you marvel? I will declare to you the secret of the woman, and of the wild beast with the 7 heads and the 10 horns that carries her. The wild beast that you noticed was, but is no more, and is going to ascend out of the deep pit, Tartarus, the dungeon for demons, Revelation 20, verse 1, and go away into destruction, in the coming fire of the second death. Now those who are making a home on the earth, who since the foundation of the world haven't had their names written on the scroll of life, will marvel when they observe the wild beast, that is, but is no more, and yet will be present. Here there is something for the mind that has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, on which the woman sits. They are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is reigning, and the other hasn't yet come. And when he does come, he has to stay for a short time. Now the wild beast that was, but is no more, is itself also the 8th, and is going to come from among the 7, and is going to go away into destruction, in the coming fire of the second death. Now the 10 horns that you noticed are 10 kings who haven't yet obtained the kingdom, but are going to obtain authority like kings for 1 hour with the wild beast. These are going to have one opinion, and they're going to give their power and authority to the wild beast. These will do battle against the young lamb, but the young lamb will conquer them, because he is the master of masters and king of kings. And those who are with him are the called, chosen, and faithful ones. Then he said to me, "The waters that you noticed where the woman who has non-marital sexual intercourse sits are peoples, crowds, nations, and languages. Now the 10 horns that you noticed, and the wild beast, these will hate the woman who has non-marital sexual intercourse, make her into a waste, strip her naked, eat her flesh, and burn her up with fire. For Almighty has given it into their hearts to do what he has in mind by giving their kingdoms to the wild beast, until the words of Almighty have been completely done. Now the woman whom you noticed is the great city that has a kingdom over the kings of the earth."